we're comfortable with or already know. 4 times 10 would be the same as saying 4 tens. 4 tens. And 4 tens, one way we could represent that is a 10 plus a second 10, it's a third 10 plus a fourth 10, or 4 tens. And now let's count that. 10 plus 10 is 20, plus 10 is 30, plus 10 is 40. So our solution is 40, or a 4 with a 0. And this is the pattern that we've seen before. When we multiply 4 times 10, we keep our whole number of 4, and we add a 0 to the end for the times 10. So another example of that might be something like 8 times 10. Well, 8 times 10 is the same as 8 tens. And this time, let's just count them. If we count 8 tens, it'll be 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. So when I counted 8 tens, the solution was 80, or an 8 with a 0 on the end. So times 10, when we multiply a whole number times 10, the pattern is that we end up adding a 0 to the end of our whole number. So let's take now what we already know about tens and let's apply it to hundreds. Something like, let's say, 2 times 100. There's a couple ways we can think about this. One way is to say that this is the same as 2 hundreds. 2 hundreds, which is 100 plus another 100. There is quite literally 200, which is a total of 200, or 2 with 2 zeros on the end. Now we have 2 zeros on the end. Or another way to think about this is 2 times 100. Instead of saying times 100, we could say times 10 times 10. Because 10 times 10 is the same as 100. And 2 times 10, we know is a 2 with a 0 on the end, which is 20. And 20 times 10 then will be 20 with a 0 on the end. Because we multiplied by 10 twice, we added 2 zeros. And multiplying by 100 is just that. It's exactly that. It's multiplying by 10 twice. So if times 10 adds 1 0, then times 100, or times 10 twice, adds 2 zeros to our answer. And we can go even further and think about thousands. Let's try something like 9 times 1,000. Well, we could think of this as 9 thousands, and if we have 9 thousands, then we have 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, that was 5, 6,000, 7,000, 8,000, 9,000. So when I counted 1,000 9 times, our solution was 9,000. Or looking at the numbers, a 9, our original whole number, with 3 zeros after it. So 9 times 1,000 is 9,000, or 9 with 3 zeros. And we can go back to what we did before, thinking about this in terms of tens. We've worked out why multiplying by 10 adds a 0. So let's think about 1,000 in terms of tens. 1,000 is equal to 10 times 10 times 10. 10 times 10 is 100, and 100 tens is 1,000. So instead of 1,000, we can write 10 times 10 times 10. These are equivalent. And so when we multiply a number times 10, we add a 0. But here we're multiplying by 3 tens, so we add 3 zeros. So let's look at that all as one pattern. Let's say something, let's take 7, the number 7, and let's multiply it by 10, by 100, and by 1,000, and see what happens. 7 times 10 is going to be 7 with 1 0, because we have 1 10. 7 times 100 will be 7 with 2 zeros, because again, 100 is the same as 10 times 10. So this is 7 times 10 twice, so we have 2 zeros. And 7 times 1,000 will be 7,000, or 7 with 3 zeros, because 1,000 is equal to 10 times 10 times 10, or 3 tens. So we add 1, 2, 3 zeros. And so we can see the pattern here. When we multiply by 10, which has 1 0, we add 1 0 to the end of our whole number. When we multiply a whole number times 100, which has 2 zeros, we add 2 zeros for hundreds. And for thousands, when we multiply by 1,000, we'll add 3 zeros to the end of a whole number.
Okay, guys, so what we're going to do now is we are going to practice using multiplication and completing a pattern to multiply by tens, hundreds, and thousands, just similar to how we did in that video. Okay, so for example, let's look at this one. If I start with simply, let's do 3 times 6. Using my multiplication chart or drawing the picture, 3 times 6 is 18. Okay, got that much so far? Now, so let's keep going and let's multiply by tens, by hundreds, and by thousands. All right, so 3 times 6 is 18. What about 3 times 60? Well, let's see. We know that 60, 3 times 6 is 18. 1 0. So I add 1 0 out here too. Okay, so 3 times 6 is 60. All right, so I'm adding 60 3 times. So think of this as 60 plus 60 plus 60, okay? 3 times. Now, I have, what about 3 times 600? Again, I know that 3 times 6 is 18. I have 1 10 and 100s, okay? So I have 2 zeros, and I add my 2 zeros, okay? Because I'm adding 600 this time, 3 times. And 600 plus 600 plus 600 equals 1,800. Okay, I added my zeros for my place value. If I have 3 times 6,000, right? Multiply my numbers, 3, 6, and 3, which I know is 18. I have 1, 2, 3 zeros. I'm adding. So 3 times 6,000 equals 18,000. Okay, so the same as adding 6,000 3 times. Plus 6,000. Just that. Okay, 6,000 plus 6,000 plus 6,000 equals 18,000. Okay, so think of each 600 is 10 times bigger than 60. 60 is 10 times bigger than 6. Okay, so it's going up 10 each time. Let's look at another example and I'll see if I can explain it possibly a different way. Okay, all right. What if we did 4 times 5, 4, okay. Let's go back up to 4 times 5. If I look at 4 times 5, okay, using my multiplications chart, what is the product of 4 times 5? Right, 20. Okay, 4 times 5 equals 20. Now let's go to 4 times 50. Thinking of what we know about our numbers and how they get bigger. Basically, 50 is 10 times bigger than 5. Okay, so 4 times 5 is 20. I have 1 0. Okay, let's go to 4 times 200. 4 times 500. 500 is 10 times bigger than 50, which is 10 times bigger than 5. So 10 times bigger and 10 times bigger. So that's where my 2 zeros come in. But 4 times 5 is still 20, right? Let's add my 0 for my first 10, my 0 for my second 10. So 4 times 500 equals 2,000. Let's look at 4 times 5,000. 4 times 5 is 20. We know that 5,000 is 10 times bigger than 500. So it's 3 times bigger than 5. So think about it, times 10, times 10, times 10. So you're going to have 3 zeros. You still have your 20, your 0, 3 zeros I need to transfer over. So it is 20,000. Okay, so you still have your base number that's the same. You're just adding the zeros in for that place value, okay, to make it that 10 times bigger. If I have, let's do 9 times 700. Okay, so 9 times 700, let's go ahead and multiply that. I know that 9 times 7 is what? 72. 9 times 7 is 72, but I'm in my 100s, okay? So think of this as this is 10 times bigger than 7, and this is 10 times bigger than 70, okay? You have your 2 zeros, so you have to add those 2 zeros in. Okay, so 9 times 700 is 7,200, okay? This 72, okay, 72 came from your original 9 times 7, then you had to add in your 2 zeros. Okay, so that's where they came from. Let's do a few more. Ready? So I'm going to look at this one the exact same way. Ready? If I have times 2,000, we'll find out what it equals. I'm going to look at first 6 times 2. What is 6 times 2? 12. Put my 12 over. Okay, that's my 12. I have to think. This is 10 more, 10 more, 10 more. Okay, so I need to add it 10 more. 0, 0, 0. So it equals 12,000. 6 times 2,000 equals 12,000. Let's look at the pattern one more time before we practice some more on our own, okay, to find the product. If I have 7 times 6, 7 times 7 times 600, 7 times 6,000. All right, so first, let's go back up to 7 times 6. First problem, 7 times 6. What's the product? 42. Okay, so remember, 7 times 6 is 42, right? So let's look at the next problem. I have 7 times 60. 7 times 6 is 42. And remember, the 0 is like multiplying by 10 one time. So I add 1 0. So 7 times 60 is 420. Let's go to the next one. Let's find the product. 7 times 600. Well, 7 times 6, I know is 42. Okay? And 600 is 10 times bigger than 10, which is 10 times bigger than the ones. So you have times 2 2 times, so I have to add 2 zeros. So it's 4,200. 7 times 600 is 4,200. Let's do 7 times 6,000. 7 times 6,000. I know 7 times 6 is 42. And you have your 3 zeros. So it's 42,000. Okay, so on the next couple pages, slides, you are going to be working on your own to solve problems just similar to this. Break the numbers down the same way. Go back to the examples, go back to the video if you need some review, or ask your teachers that will be here to help you. Okay,